You're surrounded by people. Group chat is popping. There's noise everywhere. And somehow, you have never felt more alone in your life. And the worst part, you can't even explain it. Because how do you tell someone you feel lonely when you were just laughing with them 5 minutes ago? You're in a room full of people. Maybe it's a party, maybe it's class, maybe it's just your family at dinner. Everyone's talking, laughing, existing, and you're right there in the middle of it. And yet, there's this feeling, sitting right in the center of your chest. Quiet but heavy, like you're watching everything through glass. Like you're there but not really there. And you don't say anything because, what would you even say? Hey, I feel weirdly alone right now even though we're all together. So you laugh at the right moments. You respond when someone talks to you. You perform being okay. And later, when you're finally by yourself, that feeling is still there. Maybe even louder. If that's ever been you, this video is for you. Because that feeling has a name and an explanation. And you are not as alone in feeling alone as you think. Let me paint a picture. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Notifications, messages, someone liked your post. You scroll for a bit. You go through the day. School, maybe work, people around you constantly. You have conversations, real ones even. You get home. You're on your phone again. Discord, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Doesn't matter. You're consuming, you're connected. And by the time you get into bed at night, you feel completely, utterly empty. Not sad exactly, not angry, just hollow. Like something's missing and you can't figure out what. Here's what's interesting about that feeling. A huge number of people, across every age group, every background, report feeling profoundly lonely while simultaneously being more technically connected than any generation in human history. More messages sent, more followers gained, more group chats, more content consumed, and more loneliness. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a personal failure. It's a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay, so here's the first piece of this. There's a difference, a massive underrated difference, between contact and connection. Contact is proximity. It's being in the same room. It's texting back and forth. It's sitting next to someone in class. Connection is something else entirely. It's the feeling that someone actually sees you, not the version of you that's performing, not the you that laughs at the right times and says, "I'm fine" on autopilot. The real you, the uncertain, sometimes embarrassing, occasionally weird, genuinely human you. Most of us are getting enormous amounts of contact every single day, and almost no real connection. And the cruel irony is, the more contact you have without connection, the lonelier you can actually feel, because contact without connection is a constant reminder of what's missing. It's like being surrounded by food you can't eat. In some ways, that's worse than just being hungry. Every surface-level conversation, every scroll through a highlight reel of someone else's life, every interaction where you said what was expected instead of what was true, that's contact without connection. And your brain, somewhere deep down, knows the difference. It keeps score. Now, here's the part that's a little harder to hear. A big reason you feel unseen is because you've gotten very, very good at not being seen. Not because you're fake, not because you're a bad person, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that certain parts of you weren't safe to show. Maybe you got made fun of for caring too much about something, so you stopped showing that you cared. Maybe you were vulnerable once and it didn't go well, so you put walls up. Maybe you grew up in an environment where emotions weren't really discussed, where "I'm fine" was just what you said, and so that's what you learned to say, automatically, reflexively, before you even check if it's true. And now you walk around wearing this version of yourself that's been carefully edited, all the interesting bits smoothed out, all the inconvenient feelings hidden, and people respond to that version of you. They like it, they laugh with it, they sit next to it in class. But you know it's not really you. And so when people connect with that version, when someone says, "You're so funny," or "You always seem so chill," some part of you feels lonelier, not less lonely, because they're connecting with the mask, and you're still behind it. The mask keeps you safe, but it also keeps you hidden, and you can't feel truly connected to anyone while you're hidden. And then there's the layer underneath all of that, the one nobody really talks about. Sometimes the loneliness you feel around other people isn't actually about other people at all. It's about you being disconnected from yourself. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence? No phone, no music, no podcast, no noise, and just existed with your own thoughts. For a lot of people, that's genuinely uncomfortable. The moment the external noise goes off, something internal turns up, a kind of restlessness, an itch to fill the space with something. And that itch, that discomfort with your own inner world, it matters. Because you can't feel truly connected to other people if you're not connected to yourself first. You can't let someone see you if you don't know who's there to be seen. A lot of us have spent so long performing, scrolling, consuming, and optimizing our external selves that we've lost touch with what we actually feel, what we actually want, what we actually believe, beneath all the noise. And so when you're sitting in a room full of people, feeling that hollow distance, sometimes what you're actually missing isn't them. It's you, the version of you that hasn't been checked on in a while, the one that got quiet when everything got loud. So what do you actually do with this? I'm not going to give you a 5-step plan, because this isn't that kind of problem. But I'll tell you what actually seems to help. First, stop trying to fix loneliness by adding more contact. More texting, more scrolling, more group hangouts. If the quality isn't there, the quantity won't save you. One honest conversation where you actually say something real is worth more than 100 nights of surface-level hanging out. And that honest conversation doesn't have to be dramatic. It can start small, just answering, "How are you?" with something true once in a while. See what happens. Second, get a little uncomfortable with your own company. Put the phone down for 20 minutes, not to be productive, not to meditate perfectly, just to sit with yourself. Notice what comes up, what you actually feel, what's been sitting quietly underneath the noise. It'll feel weird at first. That weirdness is information. And third, be honest with yourself about the mask. Not to rip it off all at once, not to trauma dump on the nearest stranger, but to start noticing where you're performing versus where you're being real. And to ask yourself, gently, whether the people around you actually know you. And if not, whose job is it to change that? Spoiler, it's yours. Not because it's your fault you learned to hide, but because you're the only one who can decide to stop. Here's what I want to leave you with. Feeling alone in a crowd doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you that people can sense. It doesn't mean you're destined to feel this way forever. It means you're human. And you're craving something real in a world that's gotten very good at offering you the appearance of real. Contact without connection. Performance without presence. Followers without friendship. You're not crazy for noticing the gap. You're just paying attention. And the fact that you watched this, the fact that this topic made you click, tells me something about you. You actually want more. More depth, more realness, more of the stuff that actually matters. That wanting, that's not weakness. That's one of the most honest things about you. Don't quiet it down. If this hit close to home, subscribe. This channel is for people who think about things a little deeper than the surface, who want to understand themselves and the world they're living in. And if there's something you're going through, a feeling, a pattern, something you can't quite name, drop it in the comments. I mean that. Sometimes just naming the thing out loud is where it starts. I'll see you in the next one.